Hello and welcome to the editorial analysis of The Hindu. Today we shall be discussing the editorial of the 10th of April. So coming to the first article, closure on cynicism. Now basically the context here is that the Supreme Court has given a recent verdict where it has given a solution on the VVPAT verification. We have discussed similar articles in the past also. So a closure is what has come to this particular topic. Now coming to the issues which are important, first and foremost you should know about this judgment. Now the Supreme Court has increased the VVPAT verification rate. The VVPAT, which you all know, I'm sure by now, that it stands for the Verifiable Paper Audit Trail, Voter Verifiable Paper Audit Trail. So this is what was being demanded by opposition parties to build their trust in EVMs. So the Supreme Court has now increased the number or the rate of this verification. Previously one VVPAT was to be verified in each assembly constituency, and now this number has been increased to 5. So this is the judgment that has been given by the Supreme Court. Next, what you should know is that what was the demand of the opposition. Now the first demand of the opposition was that you should altogether reject the concept of EVMs and come back to ballot paper voting, but this is something that has been rejected by the Supreme Court, and that has been rejected largely by the Election Commission of India. This was something that was indeed not possible. So in this regard, a newer option was what was demanded by the opposition parties. They had agreed to the VVPAT verification, but under this they had demanded that at least 50% of VVPAT counting is what should be done in each constituency, and this would approximately mean that there should be 125 machines that should be counted per constituency. So this was something that would have become a huge burden on the Election Commission of India, and as a result of which now the Supreme Court has come to the conclusion that 5 machines are what are going to be counted. Next, what is important here is the issue of EVM tampering. Now you should know that there were a lot of accusations that were being made against the EVMs, and for this the Election Commission of India had given an open challenge that anybody who believes that EVMs can be tampered were invited to come and show to the ECI that they can hack the EVMs. So that was the confidence of the Election Commission of India. They had said that the EVMs cannot be hacked. But what is important here is that all the fear of this fraud, of this inside fraud that were generating in the opposition parties is now going to be assuaged. This is going to be done away with because approximately 20,000 machines will now be counted for the VVPAT. So this is a major development, a major confidence is what has been given to the opposition parties. Next is the issue of machine glitches. Now, even if the ECI confirms that EVMs cannot be hacked, a problem with EVMs is that often the machines show some degree of glitches in their working. In the previous election, a replacement is what has been required in the machines to the tune of 20%. That is what some data has been given. But after this, the Election Commission of India took stringent actions, and in the previous election, only 2% of the machines were what were requiring a replacement. So it was brought down to that level. So that is the issue with the machine glitches. Another thing that is very, very important here is the issue of electoral reforms, and this is the idea which we need to replicate in our answers. Now what happens is that when such kind of controversies emerge, for example, questions are what are raised on the authenticity of the EVMs or the legitimacy. So what happens is that even if such kind of questions are on a baseless, it distracts the Election Commission of India. And the editorial is discussing that for a long time the Election Commission of India has not been focusing on electoral reforms because it has been involved in the questions of EVMs as well as on the question of VVPAT verification. So now once a closure is what has been brought on this issue, it is important that finally the Election Commission of India focuses on electoral reforms, which includes ensuring regulating the campaign financing and the implementation of the model code of conduct, as well as how to increase voter enrollment. So these are some reforms which Election Commission of India should now give its focus to. So that is the entire analysis. VVPAT verification is an important development, and a question in the General Studies paper 2 is what can be expected on this particular topic. So that is the relevance. Coming to the next article, Brexit and the fragility of the UK. Now the context here is with regards to the impasse which has developed in the United Kingdom over the issue of Brexit. Now, per se, many points in this article are on what are not going to be very much important for us because they are a little bit of a detail of UK, but still in this issue, I would suggest that you should have some basic idea vis-a-vis UK and some idea of what are the challenges that Brexit is posing to United Kingdom. So from that context, even if a direct question might not come, for your general awareness, for interview purposes, some degree of knowledge is what is going to be vital. So this article will aid you in that. Now coming to the issues, the first issue is that of a pro-Brexit demonstration. Now you should know that March 29 was the deadline for Brexit, and as a result of which there were a lot of pro-Brexit demonstrations that took place on this date, and because Brexit is what could not be concluded by this date, there was a lot of objection that was raised by the masses who are pro-Brexit in UK. They largely called this event as a betrayal of England. Now one thing that you should know, they have said that this is a betrayal of England and not a betrayal of the United Kingdom. The difference between the two is what we will be discussing a little later. Coming next to the issue of Brexit vote. Now here the editorial is giving us a fact that this vote was what took place in the year 2016. And in this particular vote, 52% of the people voted for the favor of Brexit and 48% of the people voted against Brexit. So you can clearly see for yourself that this was what was a very, very close call. And as a result of which there will be many people who will be favoring, and there will be another large chunk who will be denying for Brexit. So this is one challenge that is emerging in UK, that a clear-cut representation or clear-cut opinion is what is not being generated. So this is something that you need to know. Next is the issue of UK. Here you should know that the United Kingdom is largely composed of 4 units. One is England. Then the next unit is Wales, which was brought under England in the 13th century. Next is Ireland, which was brought in the ambit of the UK through military force as well as through political persuasion in the year 1801. And next was Scotland, which joined the Union itself in the year 1707. So these are the 4 components of the United Kingdom. So this is something that you should know, which is important here. Also, you should know that despite the fact that entire Ireland was what was brought under UK in 1801, a freedom struggle is what was there in Ireland, and in the year 1922, large part of Ireland is what became independent as the Republic of Ireland. Only some part of Ireland, which was the North Ireland, continued to be a part of UK, as this was largely a Protestant majority in this particular region, and that is why they wanted to stay with UK. So this is some history vis-a-vis United Kingdom. Next, what you need to know here is something about the Scottish nationalism. Now, first and foremost here, you should know that Scotland was what was brought under UK by its own choice. This happened because at that point of time in 1707, Scotland was broke, so it preferred to join United Kingdom. But the demands for independence of Scotland is what have been on a rise. You should know a referendum was what was held in Scotland in the year 2014, and in this particular referendum also, it was what was a close call where only 55% of the people agreed to stay with UK and 45% voted for Scotland's independence. So this is clearly showing that the wave for independence in Scotland is something that is very, very high, and anytime this could work against United Kingdom. Another issue is that of Northern Ireland. Now the issue here is that the peace in Northern Ireland is something that is in its infancy. There was a huge amount of war, or for that matter a lot of confusion that was going on in Ireland, especially vis-a-vis Northern Ireland and the remaining Ireland. There was a lot of agitation amongst the people who wanted to bring Northern Ireland as a part of the Republic of Ireland. A war was what was fought, a disturbance was what was there from the years of 1968 to 98, and finally it was on the Good Friday Agreement, which is the Good Friday Agreement of 1998, where it was finally decided that peace was what was brought to Northern Ireland as well as a treaty was what was brokered between the Republic of Ireland as well as UK. So these are some historical aspects that you should have some basic idea about. The UPSC is not going to ask you a question on this, but still for your general knowledge, I am discussing this article because it has explained these facts in a very, very lucid manner. Also, you should know that the issue here is that Northern Ireland and the Republic of Ireland are not separated from each other by any border infrastructure. And this is primarily because of the European Union. This is because European Union allows for free movement of people as well as free trade. So because of this, there is no barrier. Now what happens is that if Brexit is what is going to happen, then Northern Ireland is what is going to be a part of UK and it will go into Brexit. So some infrastructure is what is going to be required to be created between these two regions, and this is what is resulting in a controversy vis-a-vis Northern Ireland, which is not willing to adhere with Brexit. And similar is the case of Scotland. Scotland itself is also not willing to be a part of Brexit. So the issue here is that this is what is a gamble with unity. If UK goes ahead with Brexit, then it might hamper its own unity. It might lead to the splitting of Northern Ireland, or might lead to revolts in Northern Ireland and rise of nationalism in Scotland, is what has been analysed in this particular article. Now this issue is what becomes important for India in the nationalism versus globalization debate. This is one debate that is continuing, that is globalization ending in the favor of nationalism. So there such kind of issues are what can be discussed. You can have scope whenever you are justifying that globalization is the norm. There also you can give this example that even if Brexit was what was preferred, implementing it and working out the Brexit is something that was very, very difficult for United Kingdom, which shows the strength of globalism. So these are some ideas which you can use in your answers. So that is going to be the relevance of this particular article. Coming to the next article, is there a problem with the 10% quota? Now the context here is with regards to 10% quota in employment and education, which has been given to the economically weaker sections in general category. Now, two issues are what are important. The first issue is with regards to the criteria. Now, the criteria for this particular quota is that families with an annual income of less than 8 lakh rupees are what are going to be under this particular quota, are going to be eligible. Also, these families should not possess agricultural land of 5 acres or above. So, under this particular criteria, approximately 95% of the families belonging to the general category are eligible for this particular quota. So, this is something that is showing the scenario in India, which claims that majority of the people have been moved out of poverty. There is a lot of prosperity is what is being claimed. So when this quota was what was implemented, it showed that 95% households were eligible for this quota. So that is one challenge which has been discussed in this editorial. Next, this editorial discusses about two aspects. The first aspect that has been discussed here is that the economically weaker section of the general category, their percentage in the higher education institutions. Now this is what has been analyzed with a lot of data, which I wouldn't recommend you all to remember. Only an analysis is what you have to draw from this data, and the analysis is, in this editorial it has been shown that the economically weaker sections are already present in high numbers in the higher educational institutions, and as a result of which they are not in need for this particular quota, is what has been mentioned here. The second issue which has been discussed, the second aspect which has been discussed here, is with regards to the representation of the reserved category students in private education institutes. Now here it is being analyzed in this particular editorial that the students from the reserved categories, that is the SC, STs and the OBCs, in private education, their representation is what is minimal, and as a result of which their representation in private education is what needs to be focused upon, and reservation is what should be given to this category. So these are the two analyses which have been given in this editorial. Now in my personal opinion, I don't recommend that you should replicate exactly such kind of opinions, though definitely you can use these ideas in a larger analysis, but a sole analysis of this editorial is not going to be applicable for UPSCs, because this seems to be a little biased one. If the government is given this particular category or this particular quota, it was definitely warranted, it was required, and so you cannot outrightly refute it that it was not required at all. So such kind of issues are very, very delicate to discuss in answers. Here my only suggestion to students is, because a number of students ask me that how to deal with such kind of controversial questions. Now my only suggestion to students in such cases is that whenever you are writing an answer on quotas, or for that matter such difficult issues, your answer should not be a judgment, or it should not be able to tell the examiner that what category do you belong to. So your answer has to be that neutral, that objective, that nobody should be able to analyze from your discussion or your answers that which side are you practically on. So that is something that is the one criteria based on which you have to deal with such difficult questions. So that's all about this particular article, and that's all for our discussion today. Please see our batches. We are starting with an IAS regular batch, which will start from the 15th of April, and we are going to start for an IAS prelims revision batch from the 20th of April. So all the interested students, please do get in touch with us, and that's all for today's discussion. I thank you all for watching the video.